Hi, this is Scott Marshman with eCabinets Tips and Tricks. This is part 5 on formatting your eCabinets cut list that have been exported into Excel. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can automatically add a new worksheet and transfer the data from your sheet component listing to that worksheet. So make sure you stay tuned so you can see how I done it. What I want to do is I want to show you how you can add a new worksheet to your workbook automatically and then transfer all this data from the sheet component listing into that worksheet without disrupting the cabinet name here. So one thing you could do is record a macro of yourself adding a new worksheet, but that can be a little bit buggy, and let me show you why. So I'm going to go into my developer tab here, and I'm going to go into macros, and I've got a macro that I recorded myself adding a sheet. I'm going to go edit. This could be buggy because if I show you right here, before I started recording this macro, I went ahead and added a sheet and then deleted it. What it's going to do is it's going to add a new sheet, but it's going to be named sheet 2. So if I hit F8 to debug, you see that it added a new sheet, but it's named sheet 2. So if I hit F8 again, I'm going to get an error because it can't find sheet 1. Sheet 1 doesn't exist. It's trying to give that a new name of sheet stock cut list. So let me show you the code that I've got that will eliminate that. Let me go ahead and delete this. And what I done was I added a new module and I named it Add Sheet Stock Report WS. If I double click on that, it brings me right into my code. This is my sub's name right here. Now you can name that whatever you want, it doesn't matter. And I've got some variables declared here. I've got dim work WS as worksheet. Okay, and this is just saying that the variable WS is actually a worksheet. What I'm going to do before I add my new worksheet is I'm going to loop through all the worksheet names in this workbook and check to see if I've already added this particular new worksheet. The next thing I've got is I've got dim sheet comp list as worksheet, and I've got the sheet component listing here, that name abbreviated. Now you can abbreviate that however you want, but I got it dim as worksheet. Now this is telling Excel that this variable right here is actually a worksheet, but we also need to tell Excel which worksheet it is. So this next line of code, set sheet comp list equals active workbook dot worksheets, and then I've got the actual worksheet name, sheet component listing, right here, spelled exactly like it is in the sheet tab, surrounded by parentheses and quotes there. And then I've got a for next loop, and what this is saying is that for each WS in active workbook dot worksheets there, and notice that I'm using active workbook, and that's because we're running the code through our personal workbook. If you just had for each WS in workbooks.worksheets, it's going to try to look at each workbook that you have currently open, and it's not going to work properly. So in this particular case, you need for each WS in active workbook.worksheets. If WS dot name equals, and then right here I've got my name that I'm going to name my new worksheet, which in this case is parentheses, quote, sheet stock report, end quote, in parentheses. So if the worksheet name equals this, then exit the sub. Now I'm using exit sub because I'm going to be calling this particular macro through our format sheet comp list there. If I had this code directly in our format sheet comp list program there, I would need something besides exit sub. I would need something like go to, or a message box saying that it's already been added, and then when they clicked OK, it would jump down and start performing the next block of code there. But in this case, since we're calling this sub up from another subroutine, we can just simply use exit sub. And then I've got, of course, end if. And we have a for next loop, so at the end of our what we're doing inside the loop there, I need to have next. So what it's going to do is it's going to look at the very first worksheet, and if it is not named sheet stock report, then it's going to go to the end if and then the next worksheet and look at each worksheet in the workbook until it either finds one named sheet stock report or it does not find one. If it does not find one, then I've got this line of code right here, which is sheets.add.name equals, and then I got quotes without parentheses, sheet stock report, which will automatically name that worksheet when it adds it sheet stock report. Now, after the sheet is added, I've declared that sheet stock report worksheet as a worksheet, just like I did up here, only I've done it after it added the sheet. If I tried to do all this dim and set before this worksheet is actually in the workbook, I'll get an error. So that's why I've got it down here. So dim sheet stock report as worksheet, and then I'm going to set that sheet stock report, this abbreviated variable here, equals active workbook dot worksheets, and then the worksheet name surrounded by parentheses and quotes. Now I want to move that worksheet in front of the sheet component listing. So this line of code right here takes the variable sheet stock report dot move, and then I've got before colon and equals my variable for my sheet component listing. So what it's going to do is when it adds it, it's going to add it before whatever worksheet we have active. If I was on the board stock, it would add it before the board stock summary automatically. And what I want to do is wherever it may be, I always want to be it in front of the sheet component listing. So let me step through that code and show you how it works, and maybe won't come across any bugs there. I'm going to hit F8, and it's setting the sheet comp list there as the sheet component listing, and now it's going to go through the loop. So if I hover over this, I'm going to hit F8. Now it's saying that the ws.name is cut list summary, and when it goes to next, it's saying sheet stock summary, and it's going to loop through each worksheet in the workbook until it gets to the very last worksheet. And notice that we're not activating these sheets, we're just looking at the name. So let me keep doing this. Okay, now we're on user created display parts, and that was the last worksheet, so it did not find sheet stock report. So now it's going to add a worksheet named sheet stock report, and it's going to add it before the board stock summary here because that's the one we have activated. So if I hit F8, you can see right here we have sheet stock report, but it's before the board stock summary. So when I hit F8 again and then F8 again, it's going to move it in front of the sheet component listing here automatically, and then end sub F8. Now we've got our worksheet in here. I want to step through the code one more time just to make sure that when it does find this, it's going to exit the sub. So I'm going to F8, and let me hover over this. So we got cut list summary, sheet stock summary. Now we're on banding stock summary, and 5-piece door breakdown, and now it's found sheet stock report. So let's see what happens. F8, and it is going to exit sub, and it did exit the sub. So that's exactly what I want to do. Now what I need to do is go into our format sheet component listing here, our program that we wrote and last few series, and I'm going to tweak this code and I'm also going to call up this add sheet stock report. Before I get into putting a lot of extra code in this module here, I want to comment out this error message just in case I have any mistakes or bugs. I want any errors that may come up to let me know what they are. So I'm going to comment that line out, and then the bottom two lines right here where it goes to the ending and message box. So what I want to do first is I want to get our variables that we defined in the add sheet stock report. I'm going to use those. So I'm going to get dim sheet comp list as worksheet and set sheet comp list. I want those two lines of code there. I'm going to copy that, go into my comp list here, and I want to put that before my error message and paste. I want to grab my other ones there, this one right here, and I want to copy those, and I want to put those right here. Now what I want to do is I want to call up that sub before it tries to define these. So I'm going to type the word call, and like I said, you don't need the word call, you can just type the sub name. I'm going to go in here and grab the sub name because my memory is not very long. I'm going to copy that, and I want to call up that sub. Now right here we've got, let me go ahead and comment this out here. We've got where we selected that. We're not going to need this at all. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to comment that out. I'll get rid of it later. So I've got columns hh.select. What I want to do though is after it adds this sheet, instead of selecting this right here, I'm going to select my new worksheet, which is sheet stock report. Now we don't need the quotes in the name, but we do need the parentheses. So I'm gonna, and we don't even need sheets, I don't think. So let's see what happens. So I'm gonna try this right here. Sheet stock report dot select. Copy that and paste. So let me run this code and see if this will work. So yeah, it should work. Select. So I'm going to put a stop marker right there. I'm going to go ahead and run my code, and it did select it, or will select it. So F8. Okay, so now it's starting to format my worksheet, but there's no data in here, so I need to put some data in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this variable sheet comp list right here. Go Control C and paste sheet comp list. And what I want to do is I want to access this worksheet here and all the data that is in this worksheet without actually selecting it. So let me show you how you can do that. Hopefully, if I don't get any errors, sheet comp list dot used range. Okay, so used range, and what that's going to do is over here it's going to take the used range, which is every cell in this worksheet that has data in it. Okay, that's what the used range means. Okay, I'm going to go dot copy, and when I hit space it's wanting a destination. I need to type the word destination. Destination and colon and equals and my new worksheet. So there's the destination, and it needs to be my sheet stock report. in parentheses. Okay, now I need a range to paste it to. Dot range, maybe I don't need those, RPT equals sheet stop report space there, dot range, and I want to put it in range A1, so I'm going to put parentheses and quote and A1 and end quote and end parentheses. So let's see what happens. We're on our stop marker here. I'm going to go ahead and run the code again, and I can hit F8 and see if it puts it in there, and it did instantly. Now we're selecting columns HH and doing all that. Let's go ahead and run that code and see what happens. And it's asking me about the edge banding and the carvings, and all that seemed to work good. Now what I want to do though is, before we copy all this to our new worksheet, just in case this macro has already been ran, I want to get rid of any existing data that might be in here already, as well as the borders. What I've done was I actually recorded a macro of me clearing out borders in a workbook there, and that would be under module 5 here. And you know, it's a cool thing to do. You can actually record a macro and look at what happens. What it's doing is it's taking the selection dot borders diagonal XL diagonal down dot line style equals none, and it's going diagonal up, edge left, edge top, edge bottom, edge right, all of that, and it's just telling it to be XL none. So I'm going to take this code right here. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go into my format sheet component listing. So the first thing I want to do is, before I clear out any cells or any data that's in here, I want to get rid of the borders first. So I'm going to go sheet comp list dot use range. Let me go ahead and just copy what I got on my clipboard there, and come up here and go enter, and I'm going to go sheet comp list dot use range. I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to replace the selection. That way we're not selecting all that. We're just using the used range. So hopefully what it's going to do is it's going to say, actually not sheet comp list, we need sheet stop report dot used range. Control V, double click, Control V, double click, Control V, Control V, Control V. So what it's going to do is, instead of selecting everything, it's going to hopefully use the use range and clear them out. So let me run that report again. Method or data member not found. Okay, I need dot borders there, and try it again. And F8. So it is clearing them out, it looks like. So that's working. Alright, now the other thing I need to do, you see where it's got the columns hidden here. I want to unhide those columns. So right here I'm gonna go sheet stock dot report, sheet stock report dot use range dot columns. Okay, so I'm just going to use this right here, Control C and Control V. Sheet stock report dot use range dot columns. Okay, that means that any columns that may be hidden there, I'm going to go dot hidden and tab equals false. And what that's going to do is it's going to unhide the columns if they're hidden. We're basically going to go back to scratch there every time we run this macro. Now, what I need to do is I need to clear out any data. So I'm going to hit my enter key here, and I'm going to go Control V, dot used range, dot cells. Okay, tab, dot clear contents. So it should clear out the contents. Okay, so if I move this up right here and I hit F8, you should see it unhide the columns, and it did. And now it should clear all the contents, and it did. So now it should put all that data back in there. So basically what we're doing is a little bit of insurance here, just in case the macro was run, and let's say for example it had a whole lot of data in here, and then for whatever reason the worksheet changed and now it has less data. It's going to clear everything out and not screw everything up whenever it puts the new data in there. Now let's see if we can test this code again. I'm going to reset and I'm going to run, and let's run it again and see what happens. It's saying you do not have edge banding, and yes, and that seemed to work. Let's delete the worksheet entirely. Delete and run this code from scratch here. Let me get rid of my stop marker and go Control Shift and S, and it's asking me you want to hide edge banding and all that. So now our error handling message here, we may not even need that because you just saw where we reran the code. Let me run it again. So evidently we're not going to need that because we're clearing out all the data and replacing it. And also too, if you look at the sheet component listing, the cabinet name here, everything is intact. So you can do whatever you need to do with this name. You know, you can extract whatever you need out of here. And as a matter of fact, in another video or series of videos, I'm going to show you how you can extract the cabinet size, and whether it's a upper, corner, base, tall, or whatever, and make a cabinet size report. So I hope this video helped you out. If it did, give me a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can get all my latest tips and tricks. And as always, thank you for watching and have a good day.